When's the last time that you went on the internet and lied? Well, more on the BESTIA situation in just a little bit. But for me, it's when I said I thought that S1mple should have given us a good retirement. It's not so much a lie. It's just something I thought was going to happen. S1mple has returned to play Counter-Strike 2 with FaZe Clan. S1mple's debut in CS2 was getting destroyed by Metasport online while he joined Falcons originally, and he still got that jersey on HLTV. Since then, he's been stuck in a contract jail. I want to say maybe getting paid a handsome bench salary on Na'Vi, which is probably in the range of $30,000+ total speculation on my end. But when we talk about 2 or 3 players getting over 50K in CS, as Apex put it, S1mple was probably one of them. So bench salaries are usually half. Hey, I'm no math magician. S1mple playing on FaZe. This is something that's very fun for a lot of Counter-Strike fans because everybody throughout history has wanted to see S1mple play under Kerrigan, right? From Na'Vi, you had Guardian play with Kerrigan. Throughout history, in FaZe Clan, you've had Nico, Coldzera, Olaf Meister, Guardian, Rain. You have had through and through star players all come together to create the Avengers to make FaZe happen. And S1mple was one player we never got to see because he was going to be on Na'Vi till the bitter end. And the bitter end was Sydney at the beginning of CS2, where he decided not to go, let Na'Vi go. My suspicion is because he didn't believe in the international lineup. I said this in an interview recently, but it's all conjecture, by the way. This is just how I felt. And the only reason I feel comfortable saying that is because I didn't believe in that Na'Vi either. So he had to watch them go on to win the Copenhagen Major without him. He said himself, he was obviously being honest, he was secretly hoping that they didn't win because then, you know, then Na'Vi could win a major without him. We can all understand and relate to that experience. But if that's really why the reason why he didn't want to play for Na'Vi, it was a pretty unceremonious exit from the team that he's played on for so long, from a game where everybody wants to know how well he's going to do, and left tons of questions as to whether he could come back, who he'd come play for, and why didn't he stick with Na'Vi if he didn't give us any answers. Then he released Play with S1mple. That was a total flop. It was basically a series of YouTube videos. Jane made fun of it. It was very half-assed content, unfortunately. I hate to say it, but, you know, to make money, I understand, but it was touted as supposed to be this thing that he's working on that was very special. And it, you know, besides the set design, it didn't feel very special. So whatever, fuck all that. It's nice to see S1mple coming back to play. I always say one of the greatest accomplishments in CS is S1mple's 2022 when Ukraine got invaded by Russia and S1mple was still the #1 player in the world. That I thought is the special thing that's hard to talk about. That's probably the most incredible achievement that you could have as a player. And part of that was maybe just needing to be distracted, obviously, when horrible things are taking place. But either way, it's insane. So S1mple coming back to CS2 to be real. I think what's interesting about this is when I first talked to Monacy after CS2 came out, I'll never forget, he just said, it's the same shit. You know, he really believed like CS2, there's some changes, smokes, there's gonna be a new engine, slightly new bugs. But at its core, fundamentally speaking, it's largely the same game. And the only thing that's going to hold someone like S1mple back from largely the same game is extraneous circumstances. If he has the motivation to still continue to be a pro player. If he feels like it's too late to come back to try to compete with players like Monacy and Donk and Zywoo in CS2. It's going to be things like, do I want to start over from tier 2 and tarnish my reputation that I had in CSGO? But he has made it clear. He's been going to the gym. He's been playing a lot more. And so he's back. And we'll actually get to see him play with FaZe at the Major as a stand-in if you have missed this. I know my content is for a lot of people who aren't actively watching Counter-Strike all the time. Some people are, but obviously the news is nonstop and this is a special piece of news. So anything that brings you back to the game, I'm here to tell you about it. So here's the first outing. They play at Dallas. They play against Liquid. They get mopped. They played against BC Game, and S1mple has a game that just makes you think, oh, what's possible, right? A 1.63 rating with almost 100 ADR, and the impact and the highlights are great. Roll the highlights. Johnny, I'll never call you that again. Roll the highlights, Vivid.
It'll be real tough here for FaZe to not lose any casualties on this connector fight, but that's the opening they're looking for, but cleaned up, and that plant comes in for FaZe. So a 3v3 retake for BCG to stay alive here.
And you got S1mple with the ult, but he's going to be posted up over towards the ramp. You've got jungle and con control as well, so S1mple gets to chill and have a great time. Add one more on top, and S1mple shuts the map down. 13-10, no comeback today.
Okay, and then he plays against basically the best team that they could could play against here, right? It's Heroic. Heroic are a real skill test. Heroic, this is the team right now with Heroic is one where they had to sell off their core to Falcons. Then they had to get new players, and they did it. And they actually have put together a pretty competent team. And a lot of this is bringing in Saw from Ents. This is a huge signing. I think Heroic have done a fantastic job of basically creating new good players. I'll put it that way. I think a lot of the players here, we wouldn't talk about them if it wasn't for a situation like Heroic with Saw and the really good talented scouting. Talented scouting, not even scouting for talent. So this is a tough team to beat. FaZe got skill checked here. s1mple had a bad series. He missed a lot of easy shots. I think you got a mixed bag where from our memory of these last 3 series with s1mple, in some spots you're like, damn, that's my guy. That's my guy right there. That's who I grew up with. I remember that shot. Oh, who remembers a s1mple flick? You know, like there was that feeling when you watch s1mple play for sure. There was the pistol, there was back-to-back clutches, there was a 4K pistol round. There was that impact that made you think, damn, what, is ZywOo really the GOAT? You know, besides those highlight rounds, the stats overall didn't do him any favors and he missed too many easy shots, but you still see the kind of impact that s1mple carries is still unlike, and I'll say this, I think ZywOo's still not got that level that m0NESY can reach and Dawn can reach in certain moments. Overall consistency is pretty much unparalleled. s1mple just shows us, you know, that old competitor used to be, but if you compared s1mple to ZywOo right now, s1mple is a full 2 years behind, right? If he comes back and gets good again, ZywOo's still playing. He's on the best team in the world, and that leads us into our next bit of news. The win streak continues. So now we are actually in era territory. It's getting tiring to talk about that, but here's a situation where ROPS, the golden pickup, the European ROPS, okay? Every team that ROPS joins gets better. We're talking about the double Grand Slam, looking for another major, looking for Apex GOAT IGL conversation, looking for best UK player in history right now. I think that conversation's done. We're up to 28 series wins, which already is more impressive and clears the 22 match series streak of Liquid. I hope I got those numbers exactly right. And upcoming is NIP, 60 series, 87-0 in maps and 60 series. 87-0 is untouched and will not be touched because there are losses in here, if only even a few. But the 60 series is, I don't think it's possible that Vitality gets 60 series. I mean, you know, why not hold out hope for now? Let's just say that it's not possible. It is still possible that it's more impressive than 60 depending on what number it's at. Yes, NIP were playing against plumbers and firemen, right? We all know they were playing against plumbers and firemen and electricians and shoe shiners and everything. But we also know they were also plumbers and firemen, okay? So that's what makes it impressive when you go back then. And I watched it happen live, and I, just as well as Existence and Kenny S and all of these other top players, you know, the Astana Dragons with Doja, and I as well as them could not figure out how to beat NIP. So that it was still extremely special. But quality of the game, the quality of tools to prepare for games, the quality of players at the top level, and the amount of experience some of these guys, Apex, for example, has played since the beginning against all of these iterations of these great lineups as well. Some of these guys have just amassed so much experience and skill. It is obviously a harder game. So even if they don't get 60, it's already comparable to the NIP streak. If it gets a little bit more, it's even more impressive. And the other thing is people talk about how, oh, well, best of ones are harder because they're more random. Well, how about this? This whole thing's been done in MR12 and it's entirely in best of threes, which are just a series of best of ones, guys. Just a series of best of ones. Now, the thing about the best of one angle, Liquid's average team rank of their opponents during their streak was something like 15. Vitality's average opponent rank in this streak is 11. It might even be coming down depending on these last games. And they're going to play potentially Falcons again, which will be interesting because that's the team that gets closest besides Mouse. They are playing way harder competition, and that's because you're more likely to play harder competition in best of threes. In groups in general, you're likely to play lower ranked teams, but when it comes to Swiss groups at events and you're the number one ranked team, you are going to play low skill plumbers. Okay, not just plumbers. You're going to play janitors. I mean that with all due respect. You're going to play mascots, okay? If you are playing best of ones as a number one ranked seed, team coming into any event. So there are a lot of mascots and janitors in here as well. But like, they didn't pick their opponent. Their streak's still incredible. And the aura of the liquid streak, everyone remembers Stewie standing on the table. The aura is pretty much unparalleled, you know? So Vitality, Dallas is here. We'll see if the streak continues. Then the major, and they'll see some best of ones there. We'll see how far this goes, but this is looking like history. And it also proves that MR12, you can be consistent. If you are blaming MR12 and you see a team like Vitality, yes, they have all these players and everything, but no one believed, half the people didn't believe that there could be an era at all. I thought there would be an era, but I was still starting to doubt myself. So they're proving that MR12 is viable and that if you are good enough, you can be consistent. This is very important for the game, for the integrity of each match. All right, Saw potentially going to G2 after all that heroic talk. There was a report that tied you and Sun Pius to G2 after the major. Is there anything you can say about a potential move to G2? In an interview on Saw going to G2 potentially, he said there are always going to be rumors, which if this was just a rumor, you would just say, no, that's a stupid rumor, and anybody who reported that's an idiot, right? I think there's always going to be rumors. Because sometimes you outright deny it, and then it still happens. And then everyone goes, very tricky. I should have known you were just joking, and you still did it. But he didn't even outright deny it. So we got to assume that this is going to happen 100%. G2 Saw. That would actually be a very smart move for G2, because at the moment, G2 are not even a team I care about at all right now. They're not even a real roster to me. My only qualification for, and I'll say Heroic's a real roster to me. So my only qualification for what a real roster is a team that I believe potentially could win an event. That is the only quality that will make me interested in a team and my bare minimum for whether I'm going to enjoy watching them. If I believe that they could one day win a tournament with that lineup, I am invested. I don't know how other people see it. You let me know what's your like bare minimum for whether or not you're invested in a team. I've thought about it a long time, and that's my bare minimum. And G2 do not have that. So I'm not interested. If they get Saw and they both get a great coach and a talent scale, I think they have a real chance of rebuilding their lineup. But they have a lot to prove in the wake of Carlos, who brought them m0NESY and Nico, basically the two greatest gifts G2 ever had. And since then, G2 have done a terrible job of trying to keep them. They've even just outright, I don't know, they've been stupid. Their CEO did an interview and said, we would never let m0NESY go. We could have kept Nico if we wanted to. It's like, yeah, sure. Like, who do you think you're talking to? Right? It's almost like you can't talk directly to the game's audience that know everything about the sport and pretend like you're talking to a bunch of old heads who casually watch from TVs, right? We know what's going on. No one would ever let m0NESY and Nico go if they had the choice. You don't have a team now. You just don't have a team. And people don't know this. Well, maybe people do, but a lot of talent that you want to attract will not join your team unless the talent is already there, right? Like, people turn down Falcons because Nico wasn't promised. That's why the original lineup failed. So yeah, you don't let go of generational talents that you got for $600,000 and whose contract's not even renewed, and you don't get let go of his best friend, right? Unless there's some issue. And Nico's already cited the roster moves and decisions for G2 as being the issue. All right, last bit of news here. This is a BESTIA situation. So this is really sad, and I just want to say I'm very sorry to these players because they're the victims here. They're the ones who don't get to play at the major. Yo, just wanted to jump in to make an amendment to the BESTIA portion of the video because it has evolved a little bit. As you can see, BESTIA have been trying to fight hard to get their spot back for the major. Again, this is a team that won the MRQ and actually qualified over Legacy to get into it. But as we can see now, that there was a deadline set that Valve agreed to, and the day after, which was yesterday, which was Thursday, just to be clear, the pick'ems went live. And so the team logos are up there, the stickers are done, the signatures have been submitted, and I guess that's why there was a deadline. And for BESTIA, this really sucks because what happened for them essentially was, well, Blast clarified that they started their visa process incorrectly the first time with the wrong legal counsel. That delayed the process. Then they said that they had the visas ready when it looked like they had only visa appointments. And then the very next day, they actually did get their visas, but they missed their deadline by a day. And what is terrible about this, obviously, is the fact that, you know, some situations call for exceptions, and this definitely may have been one of them. BESTIA, you know, the feeling of being able to qualify at the MRQ and knowing that you're the team that actually deserved to be there is taken from them now that Legacy are in. But unfortunately, it looks like that this was handled a little bit unprofessionally by BESTIA, and it's the players who lose in the end. But I have a hard time feeling completely bad for them in the situation where it seemed like they didn't have their actual visas by the deadline that Valve and Blast were comfortable with, and this is the first time that we've gotten pick'ems sort of ahead of schedule. Normally we get pick'ems like 3 days before and then run it. The 9panda situation back at PGL in Copenhagen ended up being a total shit show because they waited so long. 9panda still couldn't get their visas, and then they had to replace them. And I think the idea was to avoid that situation from happening again, where I think from the perspective of all the BESTIA fans is that, well, how come we can't get an exception like they did? And I don't know exactly what to say about that, but this is a major event. Having an extra 10 days to guarantee they know which teams are going to be there seems fair. It is terrible because I think if they knew the visas were coming the next day, then this would have all been fine. But now that the legacy stickers are in the game, literally the update has been pushed and Blast already have made their announcement, I really don't know if there's any coming back from that. So I just wanted to say that this situation is very complicated. I don't think it was handled perfectly, but I also don't think that even if it wasn't handled perfectly, there shouldn't have been any room for exceptions. I think in the future, if something like this happened to me, I would hope that people would just give me a little extra slack and make it happen anyway. But at this point, it also means now taking that moment back from Legacy, who just realized they're going to have a chance to play at the major. And so it's just something I hope will never happen again. But visas are very difficult to obtain, especially for America. But singling out America for visa problems is not fair. The 9panda situation was an event in Copenhagen, a country where nobody had ever assumed there would be any visa issues at all. So there are visa issues at Astana. There are visa issues all over the world. And at the end of the day, it's only BESTIA who had problems with their visas with those two players. Even Legacy had all of their visas sorted out already as well. And I think Brazil are the most represented team, and South America is the most represented region at the major. And no one from South America had any problems getting their visas except for these two BESTIA players. So here's where we are, unfortunately. Legacy are going to be at the event, and I think it's not fair to hate them as well, because I imagine being in their situation, like, it's not an opportunity they expected to get, but it's also one that another reason that BESTIA didn't get their visas and that the org failed to get the visas on time. So yeah, there's that. There's the update on the BESTIA situation. Legacy will be replacing up the Austin Major. Back to the video. Also, if you missed the pick'ems, Miracle and Mass t-shirt 30% off so that you can get it in time for the Austin Major playoffs when you join me in the Counter-Strike Elitist group on Twitter. If you haven't joined that, we will be doing a meetup so we can get everyone together at the Major, maybe do a little watch party or something like that. I'm talking to some people about organizing something bigger so we can all meet up and hang out on 6th Street, watch some games. You know what it is. It'll be fun. So see you there, and I better see you in a shirt. All right, that's all I've got for today. You remember the ASON's just dropped these €199 pair of headphones that are beautiful. I do not take these things off. I love them. They're so light. They're even more comfortable somehow than the Aspires, and they're just extremely handy. All black, baby. You can use code launders for an extra 10% off, and they're up on sale right now, ason.io. Code launders for 10% off. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video for the pick'ems. It's pick'em season, baby.